Welcome to You, Me and the Counselling World, the podcast dedicated to student counsellors and the road to getting qualified and beyond. Today, we talk about the common worries that are faced by student counsellors, particularly when it comes to their clients. So before we begin, I just want to remind you all that this podcast is no substitute for professional supervision and professional training. Enjoy the episode. Hi, welcome back. Oh, I've been gone for ages again, haven't I? Don't worry, I know it has been a really long time since I last posted, and it's really lovely to be back. I have been really so busy, and I've come to the conclusion that I'm just gonna post when I can post and put some really good quality content out there. That's a bit of a mouthful to say. I really believe in being able to do that for you all, and I so enjoy the process. So for me, I'm going to post whenever I can. I'm going to upload episodes whenever it's possible for me to, and I'm going to stop beating myself up for it. So this is the new way for me this year of having a little think about doing things a little bit different, and hopefully by sort of cutting myself some slack, it might mean that I'm able to hopefully be with you more and post more frequently without feeling a huge pressure. So I hope that makes some form of sense. But how are you all? I'm all right. I've been, like I said, really busy and, realise that I have a lot going on. But today I'm feeling all right, and I'm feeling like I want to kind of connect with you all again. So I hope that this will be helpful and useful. I'm still recording on my new setup, so hopefully the sound quality is good. And if there's ever anything that you're not sure about in terms of the sound, if it doesn't sound quite right, please do let me know, and hopefully we can rectify it for you. But what I ultimately want to do is to be able to reach out to all of you and share some stuff that I hope will help you through your own counselling training journey. And so I suppose the first thing I would start with is talking about today's topic. So I was having a think about some of the worries that student counsellors speak to me about either in supervision or at the college where I teach and run. And what feels really kind of present for me is the idea of people being worried about how their clients will perceive them and what that is going to look like in terms of the therapy. So I thought it might be really lovely today to touch base on that. So I think the very first query or worry that people seem to have is around clients feeling offended perhaps, or clients going away feeling as if the counsellor has said something wrong. So that seems to be quite a common theme, that people will be worried that they have said the wrong thing somehow. And I thought that feels to me like quite a natural place to begin, because we can all doubt ourselves, can't we? And even, to this day as a qualified therapist, there are still times when I doubt myself. But it's also about recognising that we are human. And I say that a lot here, don't I? We are human. And we are connecting with people at the very best level that we know how. And we are very much getting down into a place where we're sharing with each other, or mostly your client is sharing with you, should I say. But the reality is that, okay, you're not saying a lot about yourself to them, but you're sharing in that difficult time with them. You're sharing in the stories that they tell you, and you're sharing in their narrative. So for me, when I think about worrying that I will say something wrong, I wonder whether we look at what that word wrong means, because in essence, there is no right and wrong. We have a split second to make a decision, and we talk about what we talk about in that moment. And it's not something that we're able to plan, and it's not something we're able to sit down and work through previously. We're just in it. In that moment, we're just in it with our clients. And if we say something which we're not sure how that has landed with a client, it is perfectly okay to ask them. And so if you say something and there's a reaction that you weren't expecting from the client, it's okay for you to ask the question, something along the lines of, I wonder how it feels that I've asked you that. Or another really good question is, have I got that right? Because when we speak to clients, if we're tentative in our challenges and we're tentative in the interventions that we make, it feels that we're really in it with the client. We want the best for them. We want to understand in the best way that we can. And we don't always get that right. And if something goes wrong and we say something that the client does take offence to, which to be fair, isn't going to be something that happens very often, one of the most powerful things that you can do is to say sorry. And for many people, they may never have had an apology before, certainly not a genuine one. So if you say something that you're not sure about how it's landed, you can say sorry. And so much therapy can come out of that. But it's also important to ask the client what it feels like for them. What does this moment feel like together? What comes up for them when they think about whether or not this statement or comment or word was the right word to use? And if you have used the wrong word, another question that I think is really helpful is to say to a client, what word would fit better for you? So open it up, allow them to explore what it is that they really want to say and to get it to be clear. So the skill of clarifying is a really important one, and one that I think will stand you in good stead moving forward in terms of really clarifying with clients what they mean. And if you're not sure about something, it is okay to ask. And if you say the wrong word, it is okay to say sorry. So there's something there about how clients perceive us, but there's also something therein about how clear they are in what they are communicating. And sometimes there's a little bit of lost in translation that goes on in the therapy space. Well, it's about being really open and genuine and clear and clarifying things in a really tentative way with your clients, letting them know that, you're not the expert here, they're the expert on themselves. Certainly if you're working under a person-centred approach anyway. And that feels really, really important, that there's space there for you to clarify with them. So I wouldn't worry about making a mistake or saying the wrong thing. What I would worry about is just being with the client in that moment, in whatever they bring, and let go of some of the responsibility in terms of really being worried about what you may say wrong and what may go wrong. That stops you from being with the client. So just be respectful and tentative. And if you're going to use big challenging words, then don't do that too early in the therapy process. Wait till you've got what I call some credit in the bank with the client first. Wait till you've been working with them for a little while. And then if you're going to be challenging, you can challenge them, of course. But maybe you could preempt that with something like, is it okay if I offer you a little challenge? Which is technically a closed question. I said one earlier as well, that was another closed question, which is something they can say yes or no to. But sometimes those questions do work well. I say to our students all the time, try not to use too many closed questions. Try and stick with open questions that they can't say yes or no to. So there you go, another top tip from me there. So one of the other ones that was kind of coming up, and one that I think people really do worry about, is they get worried that they're going to forget something important, maybe like the name of somebody or a date or something like that's important to the client. And one thing I'd ask you to consider is it really that important that you remember every single detail? Maybe you think yes, maybe you think no. And I'll talk about that some more in a moment. But also, there's something about trusting in your ability to remember. And it's so weird, but when you have been through the training process and you learn how to put your clients away really safely so that you can't walk around all the time thinking about your clients, you'd never get anything done. So you can't try and hold on to everything in your mind. You have to find a way to put them away, especially when you've got numerous clients. It's all very well and good when you've got one or two, but when you've got 10 or 20, then it's really, really different, and you can't hold on to all of those people. But one thing that I would say through, I suppose, experience really, is that when I sit down with a client, even though I'm not consciously aware of remembering lots of stuff about them necessarily, when I sit with them again, it all comes back to me and I will remember lots of details. And I might be aware of something in particular. And if there is something like a date or something very sort of specific to that client, then I will often write that down in my notes as just a little date, a factual statement of, the anniversary of the client and their husband is this date. Something like that that's really factual, but will help me to remember. If they've said that they're going on holiday somewhere, I will often write down, the client has told me that they're going to, I don't know, Spain, let's just say, and they're going on whatever day, so that when I see them next time, I've got an awareness of where they've been and what they've been doing without needing to remember every single detail. But mostly it's something that comes naturally. Now, when I think about my previous question to you, which is it important to remember? I would say that yes, it is. I think it feels very validating for a client to really hear and to feel heard. So they hear that we can understand them, they hear that we are holding them, that we're interested in them, but that also leads them to feeling heard. And when they feel heard, then they're going to trust us a lot more. They're going to be in the process with us a lot more. So that to me feels really important. So you won't forget really important details. And if you start to talk about something and you realise that there is a little bit of a hazy memory there, be honest and use your honesty and your congruence in the moment to be able to say, can I just check with you that you went to Spain? Or I remember you saying you were going on holiday. Can you remind me where you went again? It's much better to do that than to pretend that you remember something that you don't, because that's where you will come unstuck, and that can leave the client feeling maybe not as safe if they feel that you're just sort of going along with what they say. It's much better to be honest if you genuinely can't remember. But I think you will find that when you're with your client, you remember a lot more than you think. It used to be one of my biggest fears, this, when I was training, because I used to think, I've got a terrible memory. I'll forget what they said. I'll forget the name of some long-lost aunt or long-lost cousin twice removed, and I won't remember who they are. But the reality is that if you're listening intently and you're following the threads, it will come back to you. And if there's some muddle for some reason, you're muddled about something, then again, it comes back to that skill of clarifying. Clarify with them what they mean. And that's really important, because if you're being clear and you're clarifying, then you shouldn't find that your memory lets you down. The issues arise when you're a bit confused about something and you're not quite sure. But by being sure, it will really help you moving forward. I hope that makes some sense, and I hope that helps to look at it like that. Okay, so I reckon we've got time for one more worry. I've actually got quite a few on my list. I might do another episode on this and some other worries kind of series, because people worry about so many different things, don't they? And maybe if you've got your own worries that you're particularly facing at the moment around your counselling work and your counselling training, always send them in to me. You can pop them in on my Facebook page. I will leave a link to that in the show notes. And yeah, feel free to comment on the latest post, or send me a personal, what do you call them? A PM on my Facebook page. And again, I'll leave the podcast Facebook page in the notes so that you've got that. But feel free, if there's some particular worry that you have, feel free to send them in before I record the next episode, and I will hopefully try and talk about as many of them as I can, because I think it really helps to hear that you're not alone in how you're feeling. So the last one that I'm going to talk about for today is, what if I meet them and I don't know what to say? So this is quite a big one, isn't it, in terms of how we trust ourselves with this process. And we may meet a client for the first time and they sit down in the room, or they log on to the Zoom call. And what happens if we just go blank? We don't know what to say. Now, this has actually never happened to me. I've always felt able to connect in the moment with something or say something. Whether it's useful is a different story, right? But I try and say something. And often one of the best ways that I think is a really good way to kind of get something moving along, if the client is nervous and you're not sure where to begin, is to simply ask the question of, how does it feel to be here today? And if you've got something like that up your sleeve, how does it feel to be here today with me? that can just be a really helpful starting point for the both of you, for them to start to talk about the process. Another really great starting kind of question is, what are you hoping for from therapy? So by having these little things up the sleeve to help you, that might be really, really useful. And the other thing I would say is to let go of all kind of agenda. It's really important that you're coming at it from a place where you're just with your client. They may be coming at it from a place of wanting you to fix it for them, and you might want to really fix it for them too. But actually the reality is that if you can come at it from a place of just being with them, it takes away so much of that pressure for you, because a lot of the feeling of I don't know what to say comes from this feeling of needing to perform in some way, needing to give them something, needing to make some big epiphany moment. And lots of people talk about these light bulb moments or big epiphanies that they want their clients to have. And actually some of the reality is that oftentimes that happens outside of sessions anyway. Quite often you'll have a session with a client and it will look like not much has happened in that time, but the client will go away and then they will have that moment, that light bulb moment of their own, when they're just washing the dishes, walking the dog, that sort of thing, where they'll suddenly think, oh, something has sunk in for me, something's landed for me. But that doesn't necessarily mean that has to happen in your therapy space. And it also doesn't mean that therapy isn't working. It just takes time for that to be processed in their own minds. So really have a think about that and recognise that so long as you've got some of these little beginning questions up your sleeve that allows you to get the conversation going, you can also use that skill of immediacy. Certainly further on in the relationship, if a client comes in one day and they sort of sit down and they say, oh, I didn't really want to be here today, I didn't really know what I want to talk about, ask in that moment, ask the client, okay, so what's happening between us right now? Where are we at with our therapeutic relationship together? And that again can be a really interesting question to ask a client that's sort of not sure where to begin. And something that I think is a really powerful question to use. But if you can let go of that agenda around needing to perform in some way, needing to give them something, needing to fix it, then I think you will find that you're just being with your client. In a true person-centred approach, you wouldn't be probing and all of those sorts of things. You would allow your client to sit and be with whoever they are. Now, I'm an integrative therapist, so I use person-centred, but I also use elements of Gestalt and CBT and transactional analysis and those sorts of things. But if the client comes in and they just want to sit in silence, in a true person-centred setting, that is what you would allow them to do. They are the expert and they're driving the car, really. They're driving the car of therapy. And you're a passenger. So some of this will also come down to the modality that you choose to practice and to the modality that you've been trained in. But on the whole, what I think is the most helpful is to connect with somebody and connecting with a simple question like, what is it like to be here with me today? Can be a really great open question that they can't say yes or no to. And yes, their answers might be short, and that's okay. You can reflect on that if you want to. Reflect on it in such a way where you say, okay, I noticed that what you said there felt like it was quite a short answer and there's no judgment from me, but I'm wondering how it's feeling for you. So keep coming back to that place of how does something feel? What does something look like to them? What is this process like for them? Because by talking about that stuff, you're allowing them a space to share. And they're trying to find whether they feel safe with you on a subconscious level. That's what they're doing. They need to feel safe and held. And now hopefully you can hold them. I don't mean physically, but emotionally hold them to give them that space to talk and that space to be with you. So I hope that is a useful way of looking at it for you. And I think that kind of to summarise, that when people go off on placement and they're working with clients and in private practice, it's quite natural to be nervous the first time that you meet a client. It's quite natural to be nervous even a few times after you've met the client for the first time, because you don't know who they are yet. They'll be nervous as well. It's something that I think it's the unknown. And so even when you're in private practice and even when you've been practicing for donkey's years, you will still have times when, especially with a new client, that you feel a little bit nervous. And that is okay, it's completely natural. I wonder how all of you are feeling now after having listened to this. And like I said, please do drop me a note on the Facebook page. It would be so lovely to hear from you, but particularly for me to help you to allay any concerns that you have. If you've got something you're particularly worried about, please do reach out. I really love hearing from all of my lovely listeners. So let me know if there's something you particularly would like me to talk about, either in the episodes that I'm, upcoming episodes, so to speak. I'll get my words out in a minute, or for future full episodes, if there's a bigger topic that you want me to look at. That's another suggestion that you want to send in. I'd be so happy to receive those. So I guess without further ado, I'll say goodbye for now, but you know where I am if you want to reach out and comment. I look forward to hearing from you. If you would like to give me a 5-star review on the platform of your choice, I would be eternally grateful. It just helps me to get the podcast out there to more people, and that is the thing that I really enjoy the most, is hearing from all of you and helping you all on your journey to becoming a counsellor and beyond. So take care of yourselves, everybody. Stay in touch, and I will be back soon. Okay then, bye bye.